We begin today the Gemara at the bottom of Daf Nun Hey Amud Beis, the last two lines where it says Tana Rabbanan. The Gemara here will continue halacha regarding what it said in the Mishnah before on Daf Nun Beis Amud Beis regarding Ma'aseh Sheni. There was a machlekes Rab Meir and Rab Yehuda regarding Ma'aseh Sheni, whether it's Mammon Hektish or it's Mammon Gavoya, if it can be used for Kidushin. And there in the Mishnah it said that Rab Yehuda says that the Kidushin does not take effect if it's b'shegig, because it's Kiddushi tos. But b'mezid, it does take effect. If you know that you're using Ma'aseh Sheni, then it's called Ma'aseh Hedyet, Mammon Hedyet, and the Kiddushin does take effect. The Gemara here is going to bring another halacha from a Braisa, and then ask on Rabbi Yehuda's opinion from what he said in the Mishnah. Tana Rabbanan, so the Braisa says, Ein loikchin beheme b'Ma'aseh Sheni. You can't buy animals with the money of Ma'aseh Sheni. What this is talking about is outside Yerushalayim. Once you're in Yerushalayim, actually you buy behemoths, and it's usually brought for a korban shlamim, and that's how you eat the money of the behemoth that was bought with the money of Ma'aseh Sheni that you brought to Yerushalayim. But this is a person that's in the city, and he has money for Ma'aseh Sheni he has to bring to Yerushalayim, and instead he buys with it an animal. Rashi says you're not allowed for two reasons. First of all, the pasuk says v'tzarta kesef biyadecha, so you have to take the money, and also maybe the behemoth will become weak and won't be able to make it all the way to Yerushalayim. Now, if a person used this money of Ma'aseh Sheni and he didn't realize this money of Ma'aseh Sheni, so he bought this behemoth with this, yachzeru damim limekayman. We force the seller of this animal to give back the money. The whole thing is a mekach tos, because if he would have known that it's money of Ma'aseh Sheni, he would never buy this animal. It's a big bother, it's a big schlep to go and take this money now to Yerushalayim. The seller would never accept such a kind of a payment that he has to now bring to Yerushalayim. Okay, now that's if it was b'shegig. B'mezid, if he bought b'mezid, an animal outside Yerushalayim with the money of Ma'aseh Sheni, tala v'teichal b'mokim. You should bring it up and you eat it in its place in Yerushalayim. That's the mokim, as Rashi brings it, la mokim mashi yivchar. That's the Tanakam at the beginning of the Braisa. Now this, Amar Rabbi Yehuda says, when's this halacha that we just said regarding Mezid, that if you intentionally bought the behemoth with the money of Ma'aseh Sheni outside Yerushalayim, that you bring it to Yerushalayim, b'miskaven, when he has an intention, v'lokach tchila l'shem shlamim, and he bought this animal with the intention to use it, to bring it as a shlamim. That's what was done usually with the money of Ma'aseh Sheni. When they came to Yerushalayim, they bought animals, and it was brought in the Beis Hamikdash as a korban shlamim. As the pasuk says, "V'zavachta shlamim v'chalta shlam." Rashi brings there. It's regarding Meiser. So if his intention was to do that, so then b'mezid bring the animal to Yerushalayim there. Aval b'miskaven lohitzi mois Ma'aseh Sheni l'chulin. But if when he bought this behemoth here with the money of Ma'aseh Sheni, his intention was not to bring it to Yerushalayim and eat it there. He bought it with the intention to eat it out of Yerushalayim in its place over here where he is, not to do it what he's supposed to do with it. So then, bein shegig, whether he was a shegig and bein mezid, whether he was a mezid, meaning he knows that he's buying what he's buying, his intention is that he's going to eat it l'shem chulin. But whether he realized the money that he was using was money of hektish, or money of Ma'aseh Sheni rather, that's what we're talking about. Whether he realized it's money of Ma'aseh Sheni, whether he did not realize it's money of Ma'aseh Sheni, yachzeru damim lemekaymam. The seller has to give back the money, and there's no sale over here. Now Rashi says when it comes to shegig, the reason is, like we already said before, that this is a mekach tos, but if he would have known that this is money of Ma'aseh Sheni, he would never accept such a money. And when it comes to mezid, this is a knas. This is a knas that because he intentionally went and bought with the money of Ma'aseh Sheni, of behemoth, to eat outside Yerushalayim, so this is a knas. And the Gemara will explain on Amud Beis why the knas over here is yachzuru damim. This is a knas for the seller, even though the one that's doing the aveda here is the buyer. He went and took his money of Ma'aseh Sheni and bought an animal with it. Okay, that's the halacha that Rabbi Yehuda says over here. So basically we see here the point that Rabbi Yehuda is saying that if you use the money of Ma'aseh Sheni intentionally for something that's not going to be then used the way Ma'aseh Sheni is supposed to be used, to bring this behemoth here to Yerushalayim, you bought it intentionally to eat over here outside Yerushalayim, what happens? So then the money, the whole sale goes back. Frag the Gemara now that here the halacha of Rabbi Yehuda in our Mishnah regarding Kidushin is a contradiction to this, because we learned in our Mishnah regarding Kidushin, Rabbi Yehuda says if you use the money of Ma'aseh Sheni b'meizid to be Mekadosh Isha with it, Kiddush, the Kidushin takes effect. And the point here is, as long as it's not b'shegig, so there's no mekach tos involved in this, because again, Rabbi Yehuda holds if the Kidushin would have been with this money b'shegig, you didn't realize it's money of Ma'aseh Sheni, so then it's a mekach tos. But if it's not a mekach tos, you know that you're using money of Ma'aseh Sheni for a Kidushin, the Kidushin takes effect. But why? Why shouldn't we say that the same knas that we mentioned before regarding the person that used this money of Ma'aseh Sheni and he went and he bought the animal with the intention to not eat it in Yerushalayim just for his own use, then there's a knas that the whole sale goes back. The same thing should apply over here regarding the Kiddushin, that if you went and used this money of Kiddushin, this money of Ma'aseh Sheni, b'meizit for Kiddushin, the whole Kiddushin should not take effect. Amar Rabbi Lazar, so Rabbi Lazar answers, in the Mishnah there's no reason for knas, because Isha Yidas, the money that this woman is getting for her Kiddushin, and this is money that she knows it's money of Ma'aseh Sheni, so she knows she'ein mois Ma'aseh Sheni mischal al yoda. She understands that when she gets this money, that the money is not becoming chulin, it's still going to be Ma'aseh Sheni money, and therefore she knows that she has to bring it to Yerushalayim, va'oila v'ichlasi b'Yerushalayim, and she'll go up and she'll eat it in Yerushalayim. So therefore the Kiddushin takes effect, and she'll do with it what she has to do with it. There's no reason for a knas. On the other hand, though, on this brayso that we just mentioned before, where Rabbi Yehuda says that if b'meizir, a person went and sold someone a behemoth with mois and Ma'aseh Sheni, then the whole sale goes back. The reason is because the meicher knows that this buyer is buying the behemoth to use for himself. So the meicher is really the one that's being machshel, this person, he's being machshel, and he knows that lekech, his intention is to eat it here, not in Yerushalayim. So therefore, over here, there is a reason for a knas. He knows it's not going to be taken to Yerushalayim, and therefore the whole sale goes back. So the Gemara asks on this, but Maskeflo Rabbi Yirmiyah asks, if this is the point here, so then, V'harei behemet meya. What if someone comes and is buying with his money of Ma'aseh Sheni, behemet meya, which is not something you buy with money of Ma'aseh Sheni, because with money of Ma'aseh Sheni, you only buy food you can eat in Yerushalayim, not behemet meya, or he buys with the money of Ma'aseh Sheni, avodim, v'karkois, slaves, or properties. The Adam Yidei Shem Mois Ma'aseh Sheni Mischalen Alein. Everyone knows that this money of Ma'aseh Sheni does not become chulin on it, meaning the kedusha of the money of the Ma'aseh Sheni does not transfer over to this behemoth tmeya or to the avadim or the karkais. So the seller that's getting this money knows for a fact that this money of Ma'aseh Sheni is going to be money which is going to be still going to be Ma'aseh Sheni. Everybody knows that. The Lashon Gemara is the Adam Yedeya She'ei Mois Ma'aseh Sheni Mischal Nalein. The money of Ma'aseh Sheni does not become chulin through this. Utnan, and what does it say in a Mishnah about such a case? Ein loichim behemet meya avodim v'karkois b'mois Ma'aseh Sheni. You cannot buy a behemet meya or avodim or karkois with the money of Ma'aseh Sheni. Afilu Yerushalayim, and this is even Yerushalayim because I was mentioned that you can't eat this and you only buy with the money of Ma'aseh Sheni something that you could eat with it, vim lokach, and then the Mishnah says, and if you did buy these things of Ma'aseh Sheni that you can't eat with them, yoichal kenegdon. So then the person, the buyer here that had this money of Ma'aseh Sheni and bought these things that he wasn't supposed to use his money of Ma'aseh Sheni with it, he is going to have to go and give out all the money and eat for the amount of Ma'aseh Sheni for what he just gave out for behemoth tamei, which can't be eaten. So what do we see over here? This buyer that got this money of the seller that got paid with this money of Ma'aseh Sheni, and he knows for a fact, he understands what's going on over here. He knows that this is Ma'aseh Sheni money, and he knows that the person that's using this Ma'aseh Sheni money to buy these items that he cannot eat, like Ma'aseh Sheni is supposed to be eaten, he understands that the Ma'aseh Sheni money that he got paid now, he has to take that money up to Yerushalayim. So the Gemara's question is, this should be similar to the case of a man being Mekadosh Isha with Ma'aseh Sheni, where Rabbi Yehuda says the Kidushin takes effect. Why does the Kidushin take effect? Because the Isha knows good and well that this is money of Ma'aseh Sheni, and she understands that she has to bring that Ma'aseh of Ma'aseh Sheni to Yerushalayim. So there's no reason for a knas. Here as well, this seller that's selling it for these kinds of items that he knows that the buyer cannot use them for what Ma'aser Sheni has to be used for. So he understands good and well that the money that he got paid is still Ma'aser Sheni that he has to bring to Yerushalayim. So why are we saying that there's a knas over here that the person that used the Ma'aser Sheni for this purpose should go and now eat kenegdon other foods, keneged this money of Ma'aser Sheni that he gave away for what he was not supposed to? Elo, says the Gemara, we'll have to say there's another point here, another distinction. Hacha b'isha chaveira skinan. The Yada, over here in our Mishnah, when the man was Makadesh, this woman, with this money of Ma'aser Sheni, she's a woman which is a chaveira. She knows, or she's careful. We can trust her. She knows the halachas of Ma'aser Sheni. And she's getting this money of Ma'aser Sheni for Kidushin. She's going to bring it to Yerushalayim. There's no reason for a knas. But over here, though, when we're talking about this meicher, stam meicher, does not know this halacha that the money of Ma'aser Sheni does not become chulin by it being so when you're selling a behemoth tmeya. Doesn't know this halacha that a behemoth tmeya cannot be eaten and used instead of the Ma'aser Sheni. So in such a case, we don't know for sure he's going to bring it to Yerushalayim, and therefore we tell the Lekeach that gave this money of Ma'aser Sheni that he's going to have to eat kenegdon the money, keneged this value of the money of Ma'aser Sheni that he just gave away. Okay, now the Gemara addresses another detail over here regarding when you misuse the money of Ma'aser Sheni. But the Gemara over here in the Braisa before and in this Mishnah now, there were two different things that it said here regarding what kind of a knas we give. What do you have to do about this? So now Omar over here in the Mishnah it said im lokach, if a person goes and he sells or he uses money of Ma'aser Sheni to buy a behemoth tmeya, you can't eat a behemoth tmeya for that money of Ma'aser Sheni. What does he have to do? Yoichal kenegda. You have to go and eat other food for that same value of the money of the Ma'aser Sheni that you just gave, that you just paid. That's the knas. So that's what you have to get done. But the Gemara asks, Vamai, why do we say this here? Why shouldn't we say similar to what it said in the beginning of the Amud in the Braisa, in a case where a person b'mezid is using the mois of Ma'aser Sheni to buy a behemoth without the intention to eat it in Yerushalayim, and there it said different. What did it say there? Yachzir adam of lemekayman. That in such a case the whole sale is null and void, and the seller has to give back the money to the buyer. What's the difference? So the Gemara answer, Ki hasam, like we said before in the beginning of the Amud. So the Gemara answers, Enochanami, that would be the halacha over here as well. But Amar Shmuel said we have to say what it's talking about over here is Keshabarach. The seller that got this money of Ma'aser Sheni ran away. So if he ran away, so we can't say that the sale is null and void and let him give back this money of Ma'aser Sheni. He's gone. He's not here anymore. Therefore, we tell the buyer that gave out this money, you can't get back that money. You're going to have to go and find food against the value of that money to come and eat it in Yerushalayim for the Ma'aser Sheni. So here the Gemara now concludes and explains this inyan. The time the barach. So what do we understand of here? The reason why we don't take back the money from the seller is because he ran away. But if he wouldn't run away, we would give a penalty to the meicher to take back this money from him, and he loses. He made a beautiful sale here. He sold a behemoth, and he's going to have a loss over here that this whole sale goes back. But the question is, why b'chlal is that who we give the knas to? Why shouldn't we give the knas to the lekeach? Who's the one that misused the money of Ma'aser Sheni? The lekeach had this money of Ma'aser Sheni, and he went and bought an animal with the intention to not eat it for Ma'aser Sheni. Or he went and bought an animal which is tameh, which you can't eat for Ma'aser Sheni. Who's the one that deserves the knas? The lekeach. Why are we giving the knas to the meicher that he loses now his money of this transaction? He has to give it back, and everything goes back. So the Gemara answers, and this is a line that it's repeated a few times in the Gemara, Lav achbere ganev ella chureganev. The mouse is not this thief. If a mouse comes in the house and it steals food, it's not the mouse that's the thief. Rather, chureganev, the hole is the ganev. And the hole here, Rashi says, is the hole that the mouse has where to hide its bread. If it doesn't have a place where to hide its bread, it wouldn't steal. Or Rashi actually in Gittin, where the Gemara says the same expression, says that if not for the fact that the achbar would have a hole out to go out of the house, then he wouldn't be able to steal this bread. So it's not the mouse which is the ganev, it's the hole which is the ganev. So here the Gemara is saying the same point. This lekeach takim misused the money of Ma'aser Sheni, but if not for the fact that the meicher, which is well aware of what's happening, didn't accept this payment and didn't allow this transaction to go through, then the lekeach couldn't do the avera, couldn't do it with the money of Ma'aser Sheni. So in the end of the day, the meicher is the one that's causing it. But the Gemara still argues back, but But in the end of the day, if you wouldn't have here the mouse to steal the bread, the hole itself where he hides this bread or where he goes out from the house, it can't do anything, it can't steal anything. So in the end of the day, we could say here as well, fine, true, the Meicher is the one that accepted the payment for this money. But if not for the Likeach actually misusing and coming to pay with this money of Ma'aser Sheni for what he wasn't supposed to, so there's nothing going wrong here. He's the one that's mainly doing the thing here. But the Gemara answers, Mistavre, still it's logical to say, Kol heiche, the Ikke Isure Hasam Kansninan. The place where the Isser, the money of Ma'aser Sheni lies right now. So the Isser was done with this money of Ma'aser Sheni, that it was paid for something that it wasn't supposed to be bought with it. The place where the money is sitting right now, that's where we give the knas, and the money is right now in the possession of the Meicher, and therefore if the Meicher didn't run away, he's still here, the knas is going to be that he is going to have to give back the money. Okay, we continue with the next Mishnah, which will discuss other scenarios of a man being Mekadesh Isha with different items that are Asr Bahana, and the Kidushin does not take effect. Zakteilige Mishnah Mekadesh Barla, person's Mekadesh a woman with Arla. Or B'Klaya Kerem. Arla is the first 3 years when a tree is planted. Klaya Kerem is when you have mixture in a vineyard, whether you planted wheat or barley there. Or B'Sheira Niskal, an ox that gored and killed a person, and he has to be stoned to death, and it's also to have anah from its meat. Or be'egla rufa, the egla rufa, when a person was found dead, and you have to bring an egla and chop off from its neck, and that's also asabana. The Gemara is going to bring a source for all of these different cases. From where do we know it's asabana? B'tzipure mitzayre, the birds used for a mitzayre, by the karbanos of a mitzayre. Ubisei a nazir, the hairs that are cut by a nazir. Petach hamayr, the petach hamayr, which is used for the firstborn of by a chamayr. Ubasa b'chalav, and also milk and meat that are mixed together, that is also asabana. And v'chulin shenishchatu ba'azare, chulin that was shechted in the azare. So with all of these that are asabana, ain't a mukadeshes. So the woman is not mukadeshes. However, regarding all of these cases, machron, he sold it. The kiddush bidmeyan, and he was mekadesher with the money that he got for them. Mekadeshes, she is mekadeshes, because only these items themselves are asabana, but the money that you get for them is not asabana. And the Gemara will bring the source of that as well. So the Gemara is going to go through one by one. Let's see here today. We'll see some of it. So the Gemara, ba'arla minalan. From where do I know that arla is asabana? The Tanya, because it says in the Braisa, areilim lo ya'achol, that the pasuk says regarding the first 3 years that it's areilim, it's closed up, it's and lo ya'achol, you shouldn't eat. So here we know that you shouldn't eat, that it's asur ba'achila. I know that it's asur ba'achila. Hano minayin, from where do I know you're not allowed to have any benefit from the first 3 years in Arla? It says the Gemara, shelo yahana mimenu, and the Braisa continues, that means not to have any anah from it. Not to use it as a dye, not to light a candle. Talmud Loimar, it says by Arla, Va'araltem Arlosai. It says again that it's closed up. Arla, Larabis is kulam. Comes to include all these different ways of using not only eating, but any kind of anah, you can't have anah from it as well. Klaya Kerem. The next thing the Mishnah said that Klayim is asabano. Minalon, Omachizkiya, Omakra, the pasuk says. When it says that you shouldn't plant Klayim, it says Le'sizra Karmacha Klayim, and then it says Pen Tikdash. Pen Tikdash means, well, Pen Tikdash literally means it's going to become designated as Klayim. But he darshans Pen Tukad Eish. The word Tikdash could be divided as Tukad Eish, that once it becomes Klayim, it's Asaba No, you have to burn it in fire. That's the source according to Chizkiah. Rav Ashi they have to read Pen Tikdash as in Pen Yeh Kaidish. It'll become like the halacha of Kachim. Just like Kachim is asabana, so to this. But the Gemara asks on this, but if so, ma kodesh teifis is damov, v'yaitzel. But what's the halacha by Kachim? If you redeem Kachim, so then the kedusha of the Kachim goes on to the money, and it goes out to chulin. Av klaya kerem teifis is damov v'yaitzel chulin. So shouldn't we say that the same thing applies by klayim? That if you sell this klayim, now the money should get its iser, and it should also become aser. But that's not what it said in the Mishnah. The Mishnah says if you sell the klaya kerem and then you use the money for the Kidushin does take effect. So Ella says the Gemara, we can't say that we compare it to Kachim, machvarte kedechizkiya. The better pshat is like Chizkiya said, that we read the word tukadesh, that you have to burn it in the fire. The next thing the Mishnah said, Shoyer aniskal is asabano minayim. From where do I know that it's asabano? The Tanya, so we learned in the Braisa. Mimashma shenemar. From this, I could understand from this that it says, Sokol yisokol asher. They have to stone this shor to death. Any ideya, so don't they know already, shenevelehi, that this is an avela. If it's being stoned, there's no shchita. So if it's nevela, asura ba'achila. And if it's a nevela, so you're not allowed to eat it. Why does the pasuk have to continue and say that you shouldn't eat from its flesh? Magid lacha, what this pasuk is coming to teach is shem shachta la'acha shenigmar dinai. If you shechted the shayra niskal after the bezdin paskin that has to be stoned because it killed someone. Also ba'achila. So even though there was a proper shchita, but since it already has the status of a shayra niskal, it was paskin that it should be stoned, you're not allowed to eat from it. That's the lo yachol. From where do I know that you're not allowed to have any anah either? Then the pasuk says that the owner of this ox is clean. What does it mean, clean? So here the Gemara says, "My mashma." What does the term here, clean, mean? Like a person tells his friend, "Yatsa plani noki min chasav." This individual got cleaned out from all of his possessions. Cleaned out means that he lost everything. So over here as well, you lose anything, any benefit from this shayra niskal, not only eating, but anah as well. Now, so this is a continuation. So he has kept no benefit from this shayra niskal at all. Okay, that's the drasha that it says here in the Braise. Now the Gemara asks in this, how do you know that we darshan when it says if it was shechted after the Gemar din, and then it's coming to say that you're not allowed to eat it, even though I had a kosher shchita. Maybe it's coming to teach something else, like we would think originally. Really, if it was shechted properly after the Gemar din, it doesn't yet have a real full status of shayra niskal because it wasn't yet stoned. Now it was shechted, so maybe then it would be mutter. And when it says it was already stoned to death. Only when it was already stoned to death, it has the status of a shayra niskal. Are you going to ask if it was stoned to death? The Bryce asked the question, so why does it have to say lo yachal? Obviously, it's a nevela and you don't eat it. So the Gemara explains, and maybe we could say like what Rabbi Vo, Amar Rabbi Lazar said. Amar Rabbi Vo, Amar Rabbi Lazar, kol mokim shenemar lo yei ochel, lo yisei ochel, v'lo yiseichlu. Anytime the Torah uses any of these expressions, I don't think it's dafka actually yei ochel, even if it says yoichal. When the Torah uses a term of isser achila, even though it sounds like it's only saying that it's also ba'achila, echad is achila ve'echad is anor. The truth is, it means both, that it's also ba'achila and also ba'anor. Unless the Torah clearly specifies that it's mutter b'hana kederech sheparat l'cha b'nevela, as it says clearly by nevela. By nevela, the Torah writes that a nevela is also ba'achila, and then there, the Torah writes afterwards that you could have a no from it. It says, like, you can go and share it or sell it to a ger toisha, to a guy. Why does the Torah have to say that you could sell it to a guy? If it only said that it's asa ba'achila. Elamai, from here, he learned out the rule. When the Torah says asa ba'achila, it means asa ba'achila and hana. And therefore, the Torah has to specify that it's mutter ba'hana to give it to the guy. That's what you learn out from the Vela. So now, what's the Gemara's question? The Gemara's question is, over here by the Shayra Niskal, when it says, Lo ya'achal es b'sadai, what's the term Lo ya'achal coming to teach? It doesn't have to teach that it's going to be asa ba'achila if it's already after the skila, because it's an avela, but maybe the Lo ya'achal is talking about after the skila, but it's coming to say that it's asa b'hana. Lo ya'achal means not only isa achila, but isa hana. So the question of the Braisa was, if it's skila, obviously it's asa b'hana. Why do you have to say this? I'm sorry, Garan. Obviously, it's also ba'achila. So the answer is, well, above all said that the term lo ya'achal teaches that it's also ba'hana. So if so, the question remains, how would we know that before the skila, it would be also ba'achila? Maybe if it was shechted properly, it doesn't have the status of a shayra niskal, that's also ba'achila. Answers the Gemara, what Rabbi Vo said, Rabbi Vo's rule of how you teach the words lo yachal, lo yachal, and so on, doesn't apply here. Because immediately when did Rabbi Vo say what he said? If this one word, lo yachal, lo yachal, is teaching you the actual isar achila, like the literal translation, and then we say that isar achila is just one example of hana, and it includes every kind of hana as well. But over here regarding the Shayra Niskal, Isra Achille Misakal Yisakal Nafka. The Isra Achille, I don't need any pasuk for that. That I know and I learn out because it's already stoned to death. It's a nevela. So now, if that's the case, so all you would be learning out from Lo Ya'achal is just the Isra Achila. So the Isra G'daitach L'Isra No, Hudichsiv, if all it's coming to say is just the Isra No alone, so then the Torah would not write this term of Lo Yachol. Nichtov Kra Lo Yahana. Let the Torah write Lo Yahana, that you shouldn't have Ana. In a regular case, Rabbi Vo said you learn both, the Isra Achila and Ana, from that one word. So therefore the Torah uses the term Achila, which is one example of Hana. But not in a case over here where the Isra Achila is already a fact because of the Skila. There's no Shchita here. So it should have just written Lo Yahana. Inami, or another thing we could say is Lo Ya'achol. We could have just said Lo Ya'achol. Es Besare Lamali. Why is it saying that you shouldn't eat its flesh? So the answer is, from here we learn out, it says Lo Ya'achol Es Besarei. I learn out afagav the shachte ke'em basar aser, that even though it was shechted the way the basar was shechted, it's going to be aser. That's the lo yachol es besarei. That even though it was not stoned, even though it was shechted, but nevertheless it's going to be aser ba'achila and it's going to be aser ba'ana as well. So we actually over here, now that we're saying that it goes on the time when it was shechted, so we could apply the rule of Rabbi Vo that when it says lo yachol es besarei, that it's going to be aser ba'achila and ba'ana, because every time the Torah uses the term of isra achila, it means both achila and ana. But the Gemara still presses on and says there is still an option to say that even if it wasn't 100% stoned to death, the way you usually stone a behemoth, maybe we can still say that with a ordinary shchita, this issa would not apply. In fact, the Gemara, maybe I should say as follows. Immediately, when do I say that this animal is going to become aser, ba'achila or ba'hana? Heiche the bodak tzur v'shochat ba, when you took a stone. Now, this stone is usually what's used to stone it to death, right? So if you took this stone and it was very, very sharp, and he inspected it, and it's sharp enough to be used for a kosher shchita knife, and he shechted it, the mechzik is skila, so it's also like a skila. So it wasn't only a gemar din of skila, but when you shecht it with this kind of a stone, so there's some element of skila here as well. So maybe only then I say that it has the status of shayra and iskal, that it would become asa b'achil and b'ana. But if he shechted it just with a plain metal knife, loy, maybe in such a case, before any skila, even if it's after the gemar din, it still does not have a status of shayra and iskal, and it would not be asa b'achil or b'ana. So the Gemara doesn't accept this distinction. The Gemara says, loy, we can't say, sorry, that's part of the question. So the Gemara answers, no, midi sakin ba'irai siksiv. When it comes to shchita, does the Torah ever say anything about what the shchita should be done with, whether with a knife, whether with a stone? It's not skila, it's shchita. Skila is when you stone it to death and it dies. This is a shchita. So if it's shchita and the Torah is telling you that it's aser ba'achila ba'ana because the lo ya'achol es b'sarai has to go on before the skila, as the Gemara explained before, so then you can't start making this distinction if it was with a knife or with a stone. This is not stoning to death. This is a shchita. And the Gemara here brings the source for this, midi sakin ksiv b'raisa. That's one point. That because in the Torah, shchita, whether it's a knife or a stone, is not the same. Is there's no reason to make a difference. V'oid, another point the Gemara says, Tanya in the Braisa it says, bakol sheichten, you could shecht a animal with anything, bein b'tzor, whether it's a sharp stone, bein b'schuschis, a sharp glass, bein bekrumis, a sharp, what's a krumis? Some other kind of utensil that's sharp. Shalkana, bekrumis shalkana, you read it together. Krumis shalkana is some kind of sharp reed. And with any of these things, you can shecht. It's the same shchita. That's the point. Okay, but now the Gemara concludes and goes back to the pasuk that was brought before, because according to the conclusion of the Gemara now, it comes out from where do we know that a shayra and iskal is aser ba'achila and ba'ana before the skila, when you shechted it? Because of what it says, la ya'achal es b'sarei. La ya'achal es b'sarei is extra. And from there we see that it's also both b'achila and ba'ana, because Rabbi Vo said, once you know it's also b'achila, from this pasuk la ya'achal, you learn from it also that it's also b'hana. So now if so, before the Braisa brought a different pasuk, Bal Asher Naki. What are we going to learn from that? So it says the Gemara, Na Bahash to the Nafkalanis Achil V'Sanot Havai Milo Yachol. Now that we've concluded, according to Rabbi Var, that you can learn out Isra Achila and the Isra No from this one pasuk of Lo Yachol. So hi Bal Asher Naki L'Mayasa. When it says Bal Asher Naki, what is this coming to teach? It's extra. And says the Gemara Lahanos Oiroi. Here, Balasher Naki, as we said before, it means he got cleaned out, he loses everything. It's coming to say that he can't even have enough from the hide of the animal either. I would think to say, Lo Yachal is Besarik Sib. Besari also, the flesh of the animal is also, but Vaire Mutter, the hide he can use. So therefore has to say, Naki, clean. Now the Gemara says, Lahanach Tanoi, there's other Tanoim in Masechta Baba Kama where this is discussed. The Mafkile Hai Balashar Noki, they learn out from this term of Balashar Noki two other halachas. Number one, Lachatzi Kaifer, in a case where this animal that killed a person is a tam, not a mu'id. So as we know, by an ox that gores, after 3 times it becomes a mu'id, then you chayiv nezek shalim. And over here you would have to pay the full kaifer, which is the payment for the atonement for this behemoth that killed. So that's the kaifer shalim, when he's a mu'id. So over here, from Balashar Naki, we learn out that we exclude chatzi nezek. There's no chatzi nezek over here for a tam to pay half a kaifer. That's one thing you learn out. Only Naki, only if it's 100%, not half. Another thing we learn out of here is L'dmei of Lodes, that if he destroyed, gored an Isha, and she didn't die, but the fetus died, so for that also, you don't pay. For the Vlodes. Okay, so that's what he learns out from here. So Hanas Oire Minalahu. So from where does he learn out this halacha that you can't have anah from the hide of the animal? Answers the Gemara, me es besarei. When it says le'achol es besarei, the word es teaches not only the flesh but also the hide. Es hatafel besarei, the es which is tafel, which is on the skin that's on the flesh of the animal. V'idach, now the other opinion, what does he learn out from this extra word es? Says the Gemara, es loy darish. She doesn't darshan the es. So let's finish off there. And this is a famous piece of Gemara that comes up in a few places. Where do we see that there's a Tana that says you don't darshan the es? Kedetanya, as we learn, Shimon Amsaini, Vamrila Nechemia Amsaini, Hayudairish Kalesan Shabbatayra. He darshaned every es in the Torah that it's including something. When he came to the pasuk of Esavayla Kechatira Pirish, he separated and he said, "There's nothing you can compare to the Eibishter." So what is he going to be marba that you have to fear like the Eibishter himself? Now you see that S is not darshan, so isn't that an indication with all the other S that you darshan, what's going to be on them? Maybe that means that you don't have to darshan all these drushes that you darshan. So he answered, Shimon or Nechemia, I'm saying he answered that Kishem shekibalti schar ala drisha, just like I got the reward for darshaning all the essen, kach kibalti ala prisha. I'll get schar and I separate and to say that the drushes are incorrect. So this is the source. Shimon or Nechemia Amsaini do not darshan the essen the Torah. At Shabar Rabbi Kiva, and then Rabbi Kiva came, the limit is Hashem lekecha tira. What do you darshan from the S? L'Rabba is Talmidei Chachamim. It comes to include Talmidei Chachamim. And the Mashal explains, the Pshat of here is, it's not that the Talmud Chacham is compared to the Eibishter, but when you give kavod to Talmud Chacham, he becomes so one with the Torah that you're being mechabe, the Eibishter, which is in this Talmud Chacham. And therefore that's the Ribui from the word S. So Rabbi Kiva did darshan the S, and Shimon Amsaini did not darshan the S, and that's the mandam over here of this brayso that does not darshan the S.